the adapter that will allow us to connect to this is on its way. I wanted to hear from you about the exam. How did you feel?
Some of the questions weren't really clear on what they meant. Like there was this thing with like item value and the price per unit, and then like you asked for price sometimes and sometimes for price per unit. It would have been nice if you'd like always use like always price per unit or total price of item. That and some other things that were there that I wasn't sure if we learned or not, like how to make titles above points in the matplot.
We learned how to do titles in
not titles above like specific points on the plot.
But this was what? Huh? We didn't ask for titles above specific points. We asked for a title.
No, you asked like there was the plot of price per unit to like the total amount of something, and then like you asked above everything to specify the point where above every point to like specify the coordinates or something like that.
I look at it on the break, but probably a misunderstanding, because we didn't mean you to put stuff above specific points, only things that we did in class. Okay, other people, how did you feel in the exam? It's important for me to hear.
For me it was very bad. I wasn't prepared for that. It felt like the homework didn't... אפשר לדבר בעברית? קשה לי לבטא את עצמי.
There is someone here who doesn't speak English. Say it in Hebrew and I will repeat in English.
אוקיי. אז לי הרגיש שזה לא היה, לא שיקף את השיעורי בית. כאילו מה שהיה בשיעורי בית ידעתי לעשות ממש טוב, וזה דברים פשוט שלא תרגלתי, והיה לי תחושת פספוס כזאת של אם רק הייתי יושבת על זה הכל היה טוב. וגם מבחינת הזמן של הבוחן, אמרו לנו שהוא יהיה שעה, ואני עם הערכת זמן זה יצא לי 2.5 שעות, זה משהו כאילו שאני צריכה כזה להביא אוכל, לא יודעת, להיות מוכנה.
So Justin, I'll translate for you. So Anat felt that it was too long. Although 1 hour is kind of, it's hard to make an exam that is less than 1 hour.
לא, זה בסדר, פשוט לא ידענו שזה יהיה הזמן.
And there was a feeling that it did not, reflect the content of the homework. So for me it's important to clarify that the notes is, I think it probably reflected what's in the note, right? I mean, we didn't ask for any comment that was not in the notes.
Also with tutorials, but not only the lectures.
Right. But it's important for me that you work with the notes from the lectures.
כן, אז עברתי את זה שם, פשוט לא הייתה לנו הזדמנות לתרגל את זה בשיעורי בית, וזה מה שלי הרגיש פספוס.
כן.
כאילו בכיף.
Okay, I'm here to hear your feedback, so it's good that the exam will be similar, okay, both in terms of what we're asking and the level of what we expect, okay, this is the kind of thing we will be asking during the exam. It's also Magen, okay, if you didn't manage well, it will not count in the final. We decided to do it Magen because you didn't have exam from previous years to really compare to. So, but yes, this is kind of what we will be asking in the final exam, okay? And as far as the platform is concerned, did you manage?
It wasn't a huge problem.
Ma?
I downloaded I downloaded it, the Tomax application, and a few days before the test, and it did so many problems during the exam.
Really?
Yes.
So I heard of one person who didn't manage to install it at all and use it in real time, but you're saying that you had problem in real time, and you guys,
כאילו גם
it's not it's important for me to clarify that in some fields in Bar Ilan people use only this. In בשפטים, for example, I mean, it's not some original thing that only is used in Python.
פשוט לכתוב את הקוד, הרי צריך לבדוק מה בתוך הפורמה, בתוך הפונקציה, וזה עשה לי בעיות כאילו עם הרווחים, אני לוחץ נגיד על הרווח, זה לא עובד.
כן. Okay, this is very important for us to know, okay? If you had problems with writing codes during the exam with the platform, send it to Imri and Rinat, because if we see that there have been too many problems, the final exam might be just handwritten. Okay, we did it this way to make it easier to check, so that we can just take your text, try to run it, and it's much easier to give you feedback on the specific stuff that are not working. But if it causes too many technical issues in real time and adds stress, we'll just do a handwritten exam. So, okay, so it's very, very important. There are a few weeks left before the final exams. If you feel that there have been some technicalities during the exam, let us know, okay?
Do we get feedback from our midterm exam?
Grades, yes.
No,
today or tomorrow.
Also, like
the feedback, the content of the grades, and I need to ask Imri and Rinat. I would assume yes. Yes.
Can I add something?
Of course.
About the clarification of the questions themselves. Also, the point he pointed out about the cost, but
The cost,
also
okay.
the what should we write? Should we write a code that assumes parameters like functions, or code without a function? It's a minor difference, but it's important.
Right, but
Wasn't
obviously,
clear.
right, but you can assume that these kind of things, if they are not clear, you can do both, and we will not take points from you, right?
Oh, I don't know, because you wrote write a function, but do you mean the content of the function, or and
What else? So what else could it be?
and then it was
In write a function, what else could it be if not
you can
def?
write a function, because some of the questions it seems a little bit redundant maybe. And another thing, can the function do more than one thing, such way, in order to use it in a safe אחר? Because there was a safe that we could do something like that.
Okay, to use the function and
Yeah, to use a function that
So
we
this
wrote.
is something you can always assume yes. Okay, if you already wrote a function that does something and you need it in the where you're not being checked by a machine, okay? We're human. If we see that something wasn't 100% clear and we understand, if you say I'm using the function from Saif, you should make sure that it's possible, but if it's possible, of course you can do it.
But can we do that the function will do another thing? Because I have a function that has to print something, and if we want it back, we need to return it.
Right.
So can we add a return and then use?
You need to use your common sense in this kind of.
Know how to use it.
I mean, if something also has a return and not just a print, of course, will not take points.
But it's not the same use.
So you can write, I'm adding a return line in the previous function and using it here.
Okay.
It's a lot about common sense.
Okay.
Okay, but okay, so I repeat it for those who just arrived. The technical part is important for us to adjust for the final exam if we do it handwritten or use Thomas. And I asked for general feedback about the exam, and I heard here mostly about clarity of the questions, that you felt that some questions might have been a bit ambiguous, and also that it didn't reflect necessarily what was asked in the homework. So to this I answered that the notes are the main reference, the notes and the tutorials, and that the what we asked now reflects very much the level and the level of difficulty and of details that we will ask in the final exam. Okay, so let's start. For those who arrived late, I asked everybody here to produce with ChatGPT a data file with 5 columns A, B, C, D, E, with numbers or strings or anything in the data file, but it has to be comma separated. Okay, so you can do it too. And let's just start. So today we will start talking about a very, very important library, which is let's summarize as usually what we did so far. So this is the list, and I also remind this list because we use it also to make our exam. Okay, these are the topics that have been covered, these are the topics in the notes. Okay, and we use this as inspiration for what we put in the exams. Okay. Okay, so today we will focus on a very, very important library, which is called Pandas, which was first written in 2008. So it's like 15 years old, but it was elaborated a lot since it was first written. And I would say it became very, very popular in the last 10 years. Okay, and it's built on top of NumPy. Okay, what does it mean? I told you that NumPy is written, many of the Python libraries are built on top of existing stuff. So NumPy is written in C, I said. So Panda is written on top of NumPy. It's using the underlying code is using NumPy. And for handling data, it's much more easy to use and user-friendly than NumPy. Especially, I will show you, we will practice. What is this noise? Do you know?
It's for me just...
Okay. But one of the reasons it is so useful is the way it handles mixed data types. You remember that I showed you that if you have a data file with a string and numbers, so if it thinks it should read it as numbers, it will read the string as a none. You remember we spent a few minutes on this. So Panda knows how to handle mixed data types. This is one of the reasons it's very convenient, but it also the way it displays the data is very convenient, and there are all kinds of fancy things that you can do with Panda and you cannot do in NumPy unless you code it. And the good news is that two very clever people already did this coding for us. So
It's also written in C?
So NumPy is written in C and Panda uses NumPy. So all the NumPy part is written, and I don't know about the calling NumPy, but most of it is written in C because NumPy is.
Because you include NumPy.
Yes, yes. I don't know about the
The panda
delta between Panda and NumPy, but it uses the speed of C through NumPy. Still, if you look at the main criticism of pandas online, the main criticism is efficiency, that it's not as efficient as it could be, that in terms of memory, sometimes it takes much more memory than the data itself, but I think that overall, for standard everyday use of a standard research work, it's an amazing tool. So this is the list of commands that we will now go through together in PyCharm. We will open a PyCharm session. I forgot to turn the light off. No, okay. So, and this is also the list of commands that you need to know, okay? And I will now open a PyCharm terminal. We will go through most of these commands. When we arrive here, we will come back to the presentation, and I will show you more things not from the PyCharm command. So, כן, אפשר לצלם את זה, everything is in the notes, okay? כל בנוטס. So let's open. Okay, so everybody has his or her data file ready? כן? למי אין? תהיו,
אצלי
תגידו.
המתן לא נכנס לפה
אז את בלי מחשב?
כן, כאילו ניסיתי, זה לא... לי מסך לזה.
רוצה אולי לשבת ליד מישהו שתראי...
אפשר?
אתה יכול לעשות מהר. 10 שורות, 5 טורים.
10 שורות?
או 20, זה ממש לא משנה.
It was saved to my computer as an Excel file, is that okay?
No, you should save it as a CSV. And this is our 7th lecture. Okay, so we start by importing Panda, okay? Import pandas. Usually Panda is imported as PD, okay? But if you remember that you can import it as a mushroom or a bicycle, okay? As long as you are consistent. Okay, and I will also import NumPy because I'm planning to use NumPy too as NP. Okay, and okay, so and you should have your data file in accessible. So I will need to move it. So my file is called example file in Panda, and if I open it, let's see what it looks like. Okay, so this is what it looks like. It has 4 columns and numbers. Okay, good. So let's okay, now there is a jargon in Panda that you should become familiar with. Okay, the objects, the main objects in Panda, for those, I don't know, is someone familiar with Pandas already? Okay, so in Pandas we use data in the form of what we call a data frame. Okay, the data frames are the basic objects that we manipulate in Panda in the same way that in NumPy we are manipulating NumPy arrays. So in Pandas we're manipulating data frame. And what is a data frame? It's a thing, an object with columns and lines of data. Okay, and this is where you store your data. Okay, now there are several ways to create a data frame. Again, we will now explore 3 ways. Okay, so one way is to start with a NumPy array. Let's assume that you have an existing NumPy array and you want to make a data frame of it. So create a data frame from a NumPy array, and of course you want to add columns names to this data. Okay, so let's try. So I have an array which is just some random numbers. Let's random I want 6 lines and 4 columns. Okay, so let's print A. Oops. Why is it not printing? Why is it complaining about?
צריך עוד סוגריים, שזה יהיה זוג.
פה?
כן, ב-6
Okay, thanks. Okay, so I have a NumPy array A, and let's assume I want to create a data frame from it. So the way to use it is, usually data frame are called df, df1, df2, but you can call them whatever you want. Okay, so we use the following command, data frame, okay, and then I specify the data and I give columns names to this data. Okay, so in our case we have 6 lines, 4 columns, so I'm giving 4 column names. Okay, so let's look at df. Okay, so if I look at df now, this is df, this is my data frame. Okay, where I have 4 columns, and the nice thing is that Panda is, you see, it's very clean. It's arranging it in a very clean way. And these things are not part of my original data, you see, they don't appear here. These are called the indexes. Okay, so my data frame has columns, it has indexes, and it has the data. These are all the ingredients of a data frame. Okay, so this was one way to create a data frame. Another way, which is very useful, is to create a data frame from a dictionary. And why from a dictionary? You see that there is a, how do you say mitbakesh, a very natural way to structure this thing as a dictionary. Okay, these will be the keys, ABCDs will be the keys, and the data will be the values of the dictionary. You remember, in a dictionary I have a key, I have values, So it's very natural to often to structure my data in the form of a dictionary. So for example, if my data is the data about students, so one key would be the ages, a list of ages, one key would be the names, a list of names, etc. Okay, so this is another way to do it. So let's try. Okay, so if I have, for example, a dictionary D called A, so one key is A.
אז בעצם זה מה שזה מדפיס עבור מה שרשמת?
מה זה? כן, זה היה מודפס בגרסה שלפני.
כאילו זה כאילו מגיע כולל האינדקסים של השורות?
מה זה?
זה מגיע עם האינדקסים?
כן, כן, הדאטה פריים הוא עם האינדקסים, האינדקסים הם לא חלק מהדאטה, בסדר? אוקיי, so 1, 2, okay, and then I have a column called names. Okay, let's assume I have these two items in my dictionary. Okay, I now realize that one of the things that might have been confusing in the exam is that we also talk about items for a dictionary. Okay, not only there are the grocery items and there are items in a dictionary. The item in a dictionary, if you remember, it's a pair. An item is a pair. Okay, and now I can create a data frame from this dictionary. So let's see what will be printed here. DF. Okay. Okay, so I have two columns, A and names, and a nicely clean view of my data. Okay? Okay, and the last way, which is in research, super useful. If you remember, we used with NumPy, do you remember what command we used to read from a file to load data into a NumPy array? This is basic NumPy gen from text, right? So the equivalent here, so this was from a dictionary, and the equivalent is read from CSV.
את יכולה להשאיר אבל את מה שרשמת?
כן, אבל הכל יהיה היום בנוטס. זה נמצא, מה שמודפס אצלי זה מה שעולה ללמדה, בסדר? וזה מה שאני כותבת פה, בסדר? אני יכולה להשאיר, אין לי בעיה, פשוט שתדע, זה יכול להרגיע אותך. אוקיי? So, let's create a data frame from a file. And this is where you should use your the file you made. So you can do pd read CSV. And what was the name? Okay, this is my int df. Okay, so this is the content of my example file, and you see that it's printed here. Okay, now let's try to see what happens if I have mixed data types in my file. Okay, so I'm going to add here a string, hi, hello world. Okay, and here I'm going to add a boolean. Okay, so let's see what happens. Okay, you see that Panda just handles it. It doesn't need me. You see, it knows that this is a string, this is a boolean. It doesn't need me to specify anything. Okay, and the more your code handles by itself, the less bugs you have, because even if you didn't think about specifying, it knows how to handle it. Okay? So this is one of the assets of Panda. Okay? Okay, now, so we saw, if I summarize, we saw 3 ways to create a data frame. One way was from a NumPy array, where I just specify columns and the NumPy array is the data part. One way was from a dictionary. Okay, in the dictionary, I specify the columns through the keys and the data is through the values of the keys. And one way was just by reading from a text file, from a CSV file. Okay, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure that there are other formats you can read from. Okay, I'm pretty sure that you can read from Excel or from all kind of weird formats, but we will use the simplest. Okay, good. Now that we know how to use the data frame, okay, first, are there any questions? Okay, so now I will show you a few commands that are very useful once you have your data frame. Okay, once you already have it and you want to do all kind of manipulations of it, let's see what we can do with an existing data frame. So let's assume that I want to add columns.
האקזמפל פייל פנדס 2.csv זה כאילו פעולה מובנית בפייתון?
לא, זה השם של הדאטה פייל שלי. אתם, so, אריאל?
כן.
Yes! I remember your name. So, Ariel asked if this is inherent to Panda. I said, of course not. This is the name of my own data file, but when you do it, you should give it your own data file name instead, okay? The one you created. Okay, so let's see now how I can edit a data frame once I have it. Let's assume I want to add a column, okay? So I want to add a column called, for example, blah, okay? And let's see what will happen. Okay, this is interesting and this is important. Let's print. You see that my data has 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. Okay, and I want to add a column, and the way I did it is that it's like when we manipulate dictionaries. It's the same. Okay, I'm adding here a column called blah, and I'm adding the value hider. So you could ask, wait, but you have 20 lines in your data. What will happen if you only use one value here? And the answer is that Panda just repeats the value as many times as needed so that your data makes sense, that the structure of the data makes sense. Okay? And this is just one example. Panda is actually doing a lot of guessing what you meant in ways which will avoid bugging. Okay? So it will assume that if you wrote this, you want it to complete hider in the way that your data will be consistent.
And if you want only the first line, for example.
And then what? And then what?
And you know,
And you need to specify something. Otherwise, what?
it has to be full.
You have to, if you have a, so your data has to be rectangular.
Okay.
Okay?
So we could say
If you want to put something else here, we will see in a minute how to access specific indexes. Okay? Remember, these are the indexes. You're asking, what if I want other things in other indexes? Okay, so we will see in a minute how to access specific indexes. Okay. Now there is a way to ask about the types of the data. Okay, so let's assume I want to ask what is the type of data that I have in my data frame.
אז כאילו כל מה שזה עשה השורה הזאת של ה-DF בלה זה לרשום לך כאילו עמודה, כי הגדרת את זה אז להיות עמודות.
אם הייתי, I could have done something else. How many indexes do I have here? I could have done this. NumPy arrange, and I have 19 points here. No, it complained because right. I could have added in blah something that already has 20 things in it. Okay, this is what I did now. Okay, I added here a long array with 20 things, and then it knows to put each of the things in each of the lines. Okay, this is one way to do it, to populate your data. But what I wanted to show you here is that even if you don't give enough elements, if you give only one element, it will just do the work so that it's consistent, and just the solution it offers here is to repeat it as many times as needed so that your data is consistent. But if I do this, okay, if I give it a list of or something that is 19 element long, it doesn't know what to do, right? And it complains. Because shall it repeat the first element, shall it repeat the last one? Okay? So
if it's more like
21, it will complain too, I think. Yes, it complains because it doesn't know, do you want to remove one from the beginning, from the end? Okay? It's too ambiguous. Okay?
וה-NP נקודה range זה כאילו נותן את האינדקסים?
סתם רציתי, I wanted to give it something that is an array which is 20 element long, and I didn't want to write 20 names or 20, so I just gave it. אבל אתה יכול לעשות את זה בקפיצות של 3, אתה מבין? Okay, now you see this is an important comment. I asked it what are the types in the data frames. Okay, so it said the first, actually I will go back to the string so that I show you an example on the with the string. And so this is interesting. It's interpreting some things as floats, as numbers. Okay, here the moment it is mixed type, it has both strings and numbers, it's interpreting the columns as objects.
It also interprets the header as object
Right.
instead of string.
Right? So this is important to know. I mean, a string is included in the object types, but if you remember in NumPy we had to specify for a column with mixed types, we had to specify the type as object. Okay. Okay, there is another very important command called df columns. Print df columns. Okay, you can access the names of the columns. Okay, so columns is an iterable object with all the names of your columns. You can iterate through it for E in df columns, print E. Right. Okay, I've now printed all my column names. Okay, so columns is the way you access your data frame columns. Okay, now I have all kind of cool commands to view the data. Let's assume you have a data frame with thousands of lines. Okay, there are all kind of ways to visualize it without having to print all the lines. So one way is to print the tail. Okay, if I want to print the last 3 lines of my data, and if I want to print the heads, the first 3 lines of the data, I can use this command, tail.
את יכולה לחזור על מה עושה D-types?
D-types, it gives me the types of the columns. So,
כאילו אם זה integer
or floats, or if it's mixed types, it will just declare it as an object type. Okay? Okay, so you see that here it's printing the tail and the head, and very important, it's printing here the indexes. So these are the 3 first indexes. So this way I know this is the tail and this is the head, and it's also printing the columns. Okay, it's not like in NumPy, if you would like to print the columns, you would have to print the first line. But here, it's understanding that, okay, it's the tail, but still you want to see the names of the columns. You see what I mean? Okay, so this is important. Now let's assume that I want to convert my data frame into NumPy. Okay, you could need to do this for all kind of applications. So let's do it. There is a command called to NumPy, df to NumPy. Converting to NumPy. Okay, so this has converted my data into a big NumPy array, okay, with lines where each line has 4 elements. Okay, this is just a big NumPy array. And you see that because the second column had mixed types, the first column here is all floats. But the second column, because it had mixed types, NumPy decided to read everything as strings in the second columns. You see it? So this is important. Okay.
When we convert it backwards, it was,
What?
when we convert it backwards, it would in numbers.
It will read it as strings. Yes. Okay. And I wrote it in the note. This can be, so to NumPy, it gives a NumPy representation of your data, but it can be an expensive operation if you have mixed types, because it will convert types of data. It can be expensive, so I wouldn't do it. It's better to learn how to use pandas than to convert everything to NumPy and do everything in NumPy. Okay? Because converting to NumPy, it can be expensive. Okay, this is, I wrote you in the notes something about this. Okay. Okay, there are all, and another interesting thing, you see that when we convert to NumPy, it does not include the indexes. Okay? So this is important. Your indexes are not part of your data. So when we convert to NumPy, in the same way that it didn't convert the column names. Okay? The columns and the indexes are metadata. Okay? Okay.
In pandas we can access the
Of course.
the numbers of the rows.
We can access everything. You can do everything.
How?
We'll see it in a minute. You can do all the things you can do in NumPy plus tons of fancy things. So before we access specific things, there are all kind of nice comments that give you statistics about your data frame. For example, describe. Okay. Print. Let's print it. Okay. So df describe is giving you some statistics about your data frame. It has 20 counts. Column A has 20 counts. Column D has 20. The mean, the standard deviation, the minimum, 25 percentile, maximum. Okay, describe is giving you some statistics about your data. Nice to have, right? So this is one thing. Of course, you can print the mean or the median or specific things. So I'll give you an example. If I want the mean of column A, okay, so this is the way to do it. Wait, what happened here? Forgot the parentheses. Okay, so this is my data, and the mean of column A is just this number. So you can make a transpose, okay? It can make some linear algebra. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this is important. You see that when I asked it to describe, it only did it for 2 columns. Why? Because in column B and column C, I have types that we cannot calculate a mean on a column which has a string or a column which has a boolean. Okay, so it only did the description on these lines.
מה זה mean?
Mean זה I'm changing back the string and the boolean to numbers. Okay.
Can't we ask it to just ignore it?
I think you can. I'm sure you can. Okay, so now it's including the 4 columns in the description. Okay, and if I have you can do a transpose. Okay, you can do some linear algebra, basic linear algebra. Transpose, although it's not square, so I don't know what it will do. Yes, it's just נכון, סליחה. Okay, so transposing, this is an important one. It's made the index into columns and the columns into lines. This is important. Your indexes, they don't have to be numbers. Okay, by default they are numbers, but if you want to declare your own indexes, an index with names of animals, you're allowed to do it. You can do it. It's all very, very versatile. Okay? Okay, let's assume I want to sort my data frame. Okay, but what does it mean sorting my data frame? According to which column? So I want to sort the data frame according to the increasing order of column B. Okay? For some reason. So there is of course a way to do this in...
ה-df על a נקודה min זה כאילו ממוצע רק על a?
כן, זה מחזיר לך את הממוצע של column A.
Okay.
Okay? So let's assume that I want to sort the values of my data frame. Okay, I need to specify by B. Okay, and I think I can also specify if I want it in ascending order and a ton of other parameters that I can specify. Okay, so this is very, very important. What happened? So this is my original data. Okay, it has 19 lines, and now this is the sorted data according to B. So you see that all the elements here in B are ordered in ascending order. And what happens to the indexes? You see that here the indexes are not increasing anymore. So it's giving the indexes that are sorting the data. Okay, so you have a handle on the indexes that sort your data. This is important.
The transpose and the sort values functions are in place?
The
or
what? Sorry?
The transpose and the sort values function are in place, or should you assign to DF?
No, they're in place. If you wanted to, yes, they will modify your data frame if you don't assign it to a new one. This is important too. Okay, so this is one way to sort an array. I will give you another few things, and then we will take a short break, and after the break I will show you the things that require more of the presentation. So accessing, selecting certain indexes or slicing. You remember that to access data in a NumPy array, I can slice, okay, in the same way that I can slice a list or anything that I can iterate over. So in the same way, you can access and slice things. And here there is an important subtlety that I will show you. So okay, first, if you want to only print one column, you can select it this way. Okay, and now let's assume that you want to print the first 3 lines of your data. This is for you ahead. Okay, if I want to access, I can slice it.
ואם השמות של השורות הם לא מספרים.
Okay, so this is one of the things that I wanted to talk about.
And also if it's sorted, so should it?
Exactly. So it's good. You're guessing what my next move is. Okay. So here I printed only one column. Okay. And here I printed the 3 first lines. Now, let's assume that I have another data frame. Let's do it. Sorry. Okay, this is important. What happened here? So DF2 is a new data frame where I've sorted the lines of DF. Okay, and now I want to print the first 3 lines of DF2. Okay, it prints it, but you see that the indexes here are the original indexes of the sorted of df, okay? And this sometimes can cause issues, because I can give you an example. Sometimes I will show you after the break, you will want to do some manipulation and access things via the index, okay? So, and this can cause bugs that are hard to find. So a very important comment, 1 second, after you do some operations of sorting or rearranging lines, there is a comment that resets the index, okay? Let's show it now. Reset index, and this is in place, okay? You don't have to, okay? And let's print df2, okay? And now I want to do df3, which is called reset index, and we'll see what's the difference. Okay, let's see. I'm going to make this much shorter data, because I find it hard to read. Okay, so no, sorry. df is going to be a shorter version. Okay, so this is my df. Tac, tac. It's important that you see the distinction between what's going on here. Index reset. Okay. Okay, so once I reset index, okay, I'm slightly confused by what happened here.
What does the drop say?
The drop said forget about the all indexes. Okay, so it's actually creating a new set of indexes from 0 to 4. Okay, and it's allocating some new indexes. What I'm slightly confused about is maybe, okay, let's see. Let's reset. I'm slightly confused about what this is doing without the drop equal true.
It's supposed to give you, like, it keeps the 4 to, for me at least, it adds a column of indexes, like with the old indexes.
But do you have a columns of indexes here? Okay, so this is what I expected, and I see that it's not in my terminal. If I do this in my terminal, the reset index will add here a column with index from 0 to 4, but I don't see them here, so maybe it's a...
כי לא שמר את הדאטה פריים שזה.
מה זה?
ב-df reset index?
כן.
כן, אז לעשות df2 שווה.
2 שווה, אבל... אוקיי. Okay, so does it all make sense?
So you have another column which is called index?
Yes.
That's the original.
This is if you tell it reset index without dropping the old index, it will just add columns of indexes, okay? And it will assume you want to keep the old ones. Okay, so this becomes the columns of types integers with the all indexes. If you want to get rid of this, you should add drop equal true, okay, and then you just re-index your stuff. And this is a very important one because sometimes you do want access to the original underlying index of whatever you sorted or manipulated, but more often you will not want the old index. And if you do some iteration on the index, for example, on something that has been sorted without resetting the index, it's becoming a mess, okay? So I find that it's a very good practice to reset index pretty regularly in your code, okay? Good. Okay, so let's take a 10-minute break and then we will continue for 20 minutes or so. Okay, so we will resume at 20 past 1 in 10 minutes.
אז הריסט בעצם
מאפס את האינדקסים, אתה רואה? פה הוא שמר את האינדקסים הישנים שמיינו לי את הדאטה, ופה הוא שוכח מהם, הוא מעיף את זה.
אוקיי, וזה ממיין כאילו, עשית by B, אז ממיין את B ואז את C ואז את D?
לא, זה ממיין אותם
הכל לפי B.
זה שומר על השורות, זה שומר את השורות אותו דבר, אבל פשוט דואג שהשורות עצמן יסודרו לפי הערכים של B.
Now I want to show you all kind of ways to access data in a Panda data frame, okay? In the same way that you would access data in a NumPy array. Okay. So there is a great this is for there is a great command called lock, okay, which allows you to access your data. There is lock and elock, okay? Elock, ilock allows you to access things by index, and we will give a few examples of the difference between things. Okay, but okay, so this would give me all the lines of my data frames for the columns A and B. Okay, this will give me what? The first 10 lines of my data frame.
10 or 9.
Actually, no, the starting from the second one. You remember, it's the same as
9.
From the second one to the 9th one. Yes, and if you have indexes, I told you that you can index your data frames with names of animals. So let's assume that your indexes are actually letters and not numbers. Okay, so lock allows you to select the columns and to select here to slice by index. So this would select all the indexes between the one called J and the one called L. Okay?
J פלוס 1.
לא, זה מזה עד זה.
אז שם זה אבל שם זה מ-2 עד 9.
נכון, כי פה זה מספרים. אוקיי?
ובשורה הראשונה...
You can give it a try and it's not inclusive. It's inclusive on the first one and not inclusive on the last one. But the best way to convince yourself is always to try. אוקיי?
ובשורה הראשונה זה כאילו...
זה הכל.
הכל.
הכל, these two columns. Okay? So these are ways to slice things.
If you have some of the indices in numbers and some of them letters, so you could write J to 1, for example, or should you refer it as a string?
If you put J to 1, no, if they are ordered and you have one index called J and one called 1, it will slice it.
It's one like the one wing.
Yes, same like this. Yes.
Without the...
Okay, I think so, but as usually, I recommend trying. Okay, now there are other ways to access by location. Okay, there is the command called @ and we will give it a try. We will explore the difference between loc and @ Okay, and there is also a difference here. Here there are brackets and here there are no brackets. So remember, we will explore the difference between these three lines. Okay, these are three ways to access data at a specific location. Okay, both in terms of index and columns, and we will try the three of them and see what the differences are. Okay, let's now assume that you want to select a specific position in your data in the exact same way as you would access indexes in a NumPy array. Okay, so there is the command called iloc that allows you to do it. Okay, we will see what this gives you in a minute. But this and this works exactly like a NumPy array. Okay, you give two indexes, it gives you the position and these indexes. Okay, these are all things we will try in a minute. We can slice, of course, like we did before. This is extremely useful. I would say that iloc, although it can seem very useful because it's known stuff, it's the same as accessing NumPy array, it's not very used in practice because when you have a NumPy array, a Panda data frame, you will start thinking in Panda and not in NumPy. And so iloc brings it back to the NumPy way of thinking, but you will see that it's not necessarily the most useful.
רק שאלה, בצד שמאל של הפסיק הזה, זה השורות כאילו? האחד, נקודתיים?
כן, אנחנו ננסה את זה עוד מעט ואתם תראו. Okay, this is extremely useful. Okay, if you want to select your data frame to select all the area in a data frame according to a specific condition, this is super important. Okay, so this would select the data frame where the column A is greater than 0. This would select all the area in the data frame that's greater than 0. Okay, so these are very important. You've got the is_in too. Okay, if you want to select the element in column E, only those which are either high or 0, okay, which are part of this list. So these are things that we saw for NumPy, and we can use it in Pandas too. Apply. So this is also very useful. This allows you to apply a specific operation, mathematical operation, to a column. Okay, so let's assume that you want to apply the cumulative sum on a specific column of a data frame. Okay, or you want to apply an operation that takes the maximum minus the minimum of a column of a data frame. So you can use apply to just apply this operation on part of your data frame. Concatenation. Do you know what I mean by concatenation? If you have two data frames and you want to concatenate them, put them one on top of the other or one next to the other. Okay, you want to merge things into one data frame. This is extremely useful too. I'll show you an example.
What does the second command do?
Apply.
With the lambda.
So this defines a function. Okay, you didn't come across this in other. This comes from other programming languages. So this just defines a relation. X here is not an actual x. It's just the way you. In the same way you would define a function y equal fx, okay? And it tells you to apply the function that associates this to any number to your data frame. So it will take all the elements in your data frame, take the max minus the min, and apply it to the...
For each column or
for each, no, for everything in the data frame. If I put DFA here, it would do it only to column A.
What does it mean to take which misspell and do it to?
In all of your data frame, you can apply some operation to the entirety of your data frame.
What
Right?
if you're
Sorry, you're asking how? By columns. Okay, it will take the maximum of your
Each column?
Yes, it's by columns.
Okay.
Yes.
what if the D type of the column doesn't allow for the use of that specific function? Will it do it
So-
smartly, like skip the column? Or?
No, I would assume that it doesn't. I would assume that it will give you the exact same thing as if you would apply this to a number that doesn't allow you to apply it. Okay?
So it would return an array or something like that?
If you're asking the max of a string, it gives none. So I would assume it will give a none.
No, in the simple case,
Mhm.
this operation, what does it return?
This operation?
Yeah.
So it takes the max of your. Let's try it. Okay? We'll do it. And there is a last command that is super useful, which is called group by. And this allows you to basically group your data by specific criteria. So I will give an example, but it's both very counterintuitive, I find, and extremely useful. And I will give you an example. So let's assume that you have a huge data set with names of students and information about these students, and you know that several students are called Rivka. Okay, so I want to group my data frame by names. I want to have one entry, one set of information for all the people with the same name. Okay, or for all the people with the same age. This is what group by allows you to do. Okay, you can group your data by specific criteria, and for these two, we will try it, and you will see. If not today, then next time. I'll give you concrete examples, and it's much easier to understand when you try it. Okay, so. Let's first, we said that we will try the different lock and at and ilock things, so let's give it a try.
מתי ההרצאה נגמרת?
ב-20 בסדר? Okay, so let's try to use DOF. I said I would show you the difference between this. Lock and okay, so this is very important. This gives you a scala, okay? The first index 0 and column A, okay? Oops, sorry. I thought you were seeing what I was showing. Maybe I didn't mention it, but a column of a data frame is a data frame itself. A group of columns is a data frame too. Okay? This is important. You can manipulate them as data frames.
אז אמרת מוגדר, קבוצות של המוגדות זה גם...
הם בעצמם data frames. Okay, so here I wanted to show you the difference about between these three. Okay, and the important thing here is that both lock and at, they give you scalars. Okay, they give you the scalar that is located at the index you specified and the column you specified. Okay.
What is the difference?
מה זה?
What is the difference
It's
between them?
there's no difference. These are two ways to do the exact same thing.
Okay.
Okay, but this doesn't give you a scalar. Okay, this gives you, and I'm assuming that this gives you, this is a data frame itself, okay? But it's indexed via columns. But the important thing here is if you put brackets here, you're not accessing the scalar, you're creating an object that is a data frame itself with this as A and B as indexes. Okay,
So
so
it has
this is
no-
important.
It has no titles for the columns.
מה זה?
It has no titles for the columns.
It has, so it's this object. Let's ask what type it is, but I think yes, it's a series. Okay, so it's not exactly a data frame, and the important thing is that if you try to put it in a variable, it will not be read as the scalar itself.
What does it mean?
So here, these two, they actually give me a handle
Okay.
on the value, on the scalar. It can be a scalar, it can be a string, but it gives me a handle on what's in the array. If you put the bracket here, it creates this weird object that is actually a panda series that is not exactly the thing you want to access. Okay? Good. Now I wanted to give you examples of accessing something by a specific position. Okay, so let's see what happens if I only put one index. Okay. Okay, it's the same. It's this strange object that is a panda series that you will not actually be using, but okay, if you give it only one index, it gives you this entire line. You see this? Now, if you want to access a specific location in your data frame, you can give it two indexes. Okay, and then it will, the type of this will be the actual thing that you wanted to access, the actual scalar or the string or whatever is in. Okay, it's a numpy float, but it's actually a float. You can assign it to a variable and it will be a float. Okay, so this allows me to access. Let's see, it's index 3. Okay, and second column, it's this number here. Okay, and if my index was the names of animals, this will not work. I would have to specify instead of, I'm pretty sure, let's try it. Actually, I don't know how to change the name of an index.
If it's sorted, so what does it?
Okay, let's try to sort it. Sort values by A, print df. That's interesting. Okay, so my sorted one is this.
And it
Okay.
it gives you C4.
Exactly. It gives you the second line.
No, C4. And 0.516133.
5, 1, okay. It gives this one. Okay. So this
It
means
isn't affected by the old indexes.
It's indexes like arrays, not like
right.
not names.
Yes. So I lock, and I think that maybe lock is
location. Makes sense.
Look, maybe.
Let's try it. So, okay, so the bottom line here is that iloc is accessing things exactly that like a numpy array. It's ignoring the name of your indexes. And if you were indexing with animal names, it would still look at the index in a numpy sense. Make sense? Okay? And I suspect loc would not. Let's do it. Print, so df sort values, okay, and now let's do print df loc I'm not even sure it will accept to do this.
יש עוד בוחן אמצע?
לא.
לא.
Okay. So this is
Biden. No, wait, there wasn't a sort here.
I sorted the
Oh, yeah, there was.
df.
So yeah, it worked like the old.
No, maybe it's the same place because of the sort.
No, but we didn't. I
You didn't print
sort.
the sorted. But I think it works based on like the titles of the labels of the data frame.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it looks.
You can stop. You can stop.
Wait. But it's not printing the.
Yeah, because you're still on the old one.
No,
To
I'm here.
say
I'm here. I'm
yes.
here. It's not printing the.
You can press the red button and stop.
Here.
Yes.
The red button. It sounds bad.
Okay.
Okay, so here, let's see, df log 3, 1, 2.
No, you're.
This is.
Yeah. No. It's
The
0.389, but above it, it prints the minus of 104. It works.
Confused.
No, yeah, it. Free.
It printed this, okay.
No, because you're on the
That's-
DF iLock.
That's not the
No.
lock, it's the iLock.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
2 lines above it.
Okay, so here it printed
3A.
Minus.
3A.
Yeah.
3, the index 3, not
But
the,
you got,
Right.
you got 1.
not the location 3.
Okay, good. So and this will be the last thing that we do today. Okay, we will not do the group by and all the fancy things we will do next time. But it's good that we checked because this gives us a better bottom line. And these things happen all the time. I've used it hundreds of times, both of them, and these are things that you can forget very easily. And the solution to this is just try for yourself. So let's summarize. Okay, loc gives you access by index and column names. Okay, by index. If you index with names of pets, okay, you will have access through the names of the pets. And if you sort your things and the index are changed, okay, and you try to access index 3, it will index it wherever index 3 is. Okay, this is loc. iloc doesn't care about Panda reordering your index. It doesn't know about Panda having indexes. Okay, iloc access things in the same way as it would access a numpy array. Okay, אריאל, זה ברור? זה מובן? Okay, so if you want to go, you can go. I'll give one last layer of observation. כשאנחנו עושים sort, דיברנו על זה, Jasmine, it's clear for you? I can explain it in Hebrew? Okay. כשאנחנו עושים סורט, ראינו שלפעמים זה משנה את האינדקסים של השורות, נכון? יכול להיות לך למשל פתאום שורה שזה מתחיל ב-1, 3, 0, אוקיי, בסדר? עכשיו, אם אני עושה לוק של 3A, אז הוא ייתן לי את המספר הזה. כי הוא מבחינתו לוק, הוא מסתכל על האינדקסים במובן הפנדאי, לא במובן הנמפאי, אוקיי? הוא מסתכל איפה אינדקס 3. אז הוא ייתן לי, אז לוק 3A, הוא ייתן לי את המספר הזה, למרות שזה לא השורה הרביעית, אלא האינדקס 3. לעומת זאת, אם אני מבקשת ממנו iLok 3A, הוא לא ירצה A, הוא ירצה מספרים, אבל אם אני אומרת לו iLok של 3-1, אז לא אכפת לו שזה אינדקס 3, הוא ילך לשורה הרביעית. לאינדקס במובן של אינדקס כמו בנמפאי. אוקיי? מובן? הבנתם?
האם פלייס שווה true?
איפה?
כאילו מיינת את ה...
כן, אמרתי לו ל-in place שווה ל-true, זה אומר לי שהוא לא מועך את האינדקסים.
התרגול פה.
מה?
אני רוצה רק לשאול גם.
טוב, אז שנייה.
אבל התרגול כאן הוא לא?
כן, התרגול מועד פה לדעתי.
in place שווה ל-true, זה אומר שהוא לא מוסיף לי שכבה של אינדקסים לדעתי. אני חושבת ש... כן. אני חושבת שזה היה מוסיף לנו שורה של אינדקסים. אני צריכה לקרוא על זה, על האינפלייס.
יכול להיות שגם הדיפולט שלו זה טוב, ואז זה פשוט עושה מה שזה עושה.
נכון, אז בואו ננסה עם פולס. לא, אבל כאילו... בואו נראה. לדעתי פולס אולי הוא מוסיף, זה הכל עניין, הטריקיות בפנדה זה הנושא של האינדקסים.
כשהאינפלייס היה טרו בדקת גם את DF עצמו?
לא, שנייה. אני לא יודעת מה האינפלייס הזה.
את יכולה שנייה להדפיס כאילו
כן, את DF עצמו. אז DF זה המקורי.
כן, זה לא מעיין אותו, כאילו.
ו-DF1 הוא מעוין.
ואם נעשה טרו...
אבל השאלה היא...
אם נעשה טרו יכול להיות שזה מעיין גם את DF.
לא, אבל הבעיה היא, לדעתי, לא רואים את זה פה, כי זה בפייט שם, את עשית את זה אצלי בטרמינל, הוא מוסיף עוד שורה של אינדקסים, זה מה שגם דוד תיאר. ומשום מה בפייט שם הוא לא מראה את זה. וואי, אני צריכה ללכת, אבל זה מעניין לבדוק את זה, בואו נראה.
את תחזרי על השורות קוד האלה, כאילו, על איך כותבים אותם שורה הבא או משהו?
מה?
יש מצב שאת תחזרי על איך כותבים את השורות קוד האלה של הלוק והאיילוק?
כן, זה הכל בנוטס. אתה יודע איך לגשת לנוטס?
זה בלמדה.
כן.
כן. פשוט נוח לי שהכל במחברת מסודר.
כן, אני מבינה, אבל אתה יכול לפתוח את הנוטס ולהעתיק למחברת.
כן.
אני צריכה ללכת, אבל אני אבדוק את זה.